Welcome, everyone, to another episode of LPA Presents. I'm your host, Matthew D Rhodes, and today we're joined by a talented individual whose creativity knows no bounds. Please join me in welcoming Chris Ballinger. How are you doing today?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Doing well? Good.
Chris Ballinger is an actor, director, and screenwriter who has made significant contributions to the world of entertainment. With his diverse skill set and unwavering passion for storytelling, Chris brings a unique perspective to every project he undertakes. Today, we have the pleasure of delving into his journey and exploring the insights he's gained along the way. So, without further ado, let's dive into this fascinating conversation with Chris. What inspired you to pursue both directing and screenwriting, and how do you balance the two roles?
Oh, that's a good question. I started out as an actor, and I really enjoyed that. But I always wanted to know what was on the other side of the camera. So I did a little bit of film school, and in film school, it's like you end up doing a lot of different positions when you're in film school to learn all the different positions. And it was funny that during that time, nobody wanted to be the writer. Everybody wanted the operate the camera. I know you're looking at me funny. I'm like, I know that's weird to me, right? That's weird to you. Everybody wanted to operate the camera. Everybody wanted to be the director. So I'm like, no, I'll write the stuff that we're gonna shoot. And I don't know, I fell in love with coming up with the ideas and being the beginning of something, because you were really at the base of it, and that's you're the one coming up with the ideas and creating those stories. So I think I fell in love with that part of it. And then the directing, I started writing and then making my own short films. So then I just started directing my stuff, and I liked doing that side of it. So that's where the directing came in with it. So it's like writing and directing, because I like writing is my biggest thing I love, and then I just end up directing. So but I balance it pretty good. I've directed other people's stuff, but it's more than just mostly all mine that I've directed.
See, as a screenwriter myself, I would love to be in the director's chair because I know from the perspective of how I want the script to go, how it should go in film.
Right. I totally agree with that as well. And I think when I write, I think about that as well. When you're writing it, I'm writing it as visually, I'm seeing it visually and how it would be directed. So, but that's good for when I do my stuff, because then I already know which direction I'm going to go with it, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, man.
Can you share a moment where your skills as a screenwriter directly influenced your approach to directing a scene?
I think that happens especially when I do my own films. I think because I know, I mean, I guess as a director, you would, even coming in, if you came into a project as a director, you would know the project really well. But then as being the writer of it, I feel like I've been able to pivot really well if the scene is not working. Because I want to know the direction. I still have that idea of what the character wants, needs, and moving the story forward. So I think being the writer, I'm able to fix anything that we've had to fix right there on scene on the set that wasn't working. Because sometimes if things don't work out on set, you don't always get the exact location you want. When you're your micro budget. So you kind of have to pivot sometimes and try to fix it. And even before you go on set, like I said, if you don't have the location, you're going to have to rewrite the scene a little bit and then pivot with that. So.
But of course, with advancements in technology, like what they did with the Mandalorian, they were able to create a lot of different scenes on a soundstage with minimal effort.
Yes, and we actually have, because I live here in Orlando, Florida, and we have one here in Florida, in Orlando, we have one in Tampa. So those things pop up. They're just expensive to rent out. But yeah, you're 100% correct with technology. We can come up with crazy scenes. And now I'm reading about this new AI technology, that text to screen, where you can just type in what you want and it'll make that scene for you, which is pretty freaky.
Yeah, but there's limitations to it. I mean, it does not understand physics. It does not understand a lot of different mechanics that goes into it. And that's where it's always going to fail every time. It cannot be, it is unsustainable as trying to make a full-length feature film.
Correct. It's nice to hear that, because I don't want that to go to AI. I know AI is such a now, so.
With my studio being as small as it is, I wouldn't mind attempting to see what it would look like, but I would not rely heavily on AI. I mean, when I write my screenplays, I tell the AI, this is what I'm writing. Can you help me make it look better? And that's it. I won't let it create for me. It's not going to be able to come up with any concept that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think that human aspect is not there. The basis to create something that's in somebody's head and put that spin on it is not there. Absolutely. But I agree, like it can help you enhance or come up with what you're just talking about. Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
How do you approach developing characters as a screenwriter and then bringing them to life as a director?
I feel like with a lot of my films, I always have well, there's always a theme for it, obviously, but like a story that I want the character, like a lot of my characters are misunderstood. They don't seem to fit in, characters that don't fit in. And that's my through line through most of all my characters is when I start developing a character, it's usually a character that doesn't fit in the world. And that's always trying to get that message across that, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. And that's where I approach. That's where I seem to approach. And it's funny that you end up writing that and you're like, oh, okay, I do have a direction that I'm always kind of going in. And the stories I'm trying to tell are kind of align the same. And that always seems to be my theme is kind of the underdog type of character.
I really haven't seen many underdog style stories anymore.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree. So maybe I'm in the right direction.
When it comes to my characters, I look at a deeper psychological aspect that's sometimes hard to express on the surface.
Right. So it's always the underlying subtext that's going on with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. And with the writing, I feel like, it's mine are like, I want mine to be like character driven scripts. Because then I could take that character and I could put it in any kind of situation or any kind of genre. Although I do write more horror comedy, fantasy kind of stuff. But I feel like I could take that character and put it wherever.
Can you discuss a particularly memorable collaboration with actors on set and how it impacted the script?
No, I think with the last one that I did, my last film called Unperfect, it was about a middle-aged man dealing with mental illness and loss of his mother. We did some flashback scenes that the father abused his mother, and those to me are always like difficult scenes, especially with physical abuse. And portraying physical abuse and getting the characters into those scenes. The supporting actress, the lead female on the other side of it, she has a son, and that morning her son was choking. They had to have the fire department come out. It was a big scare for her. So she's in a very emotional state just because of that. And then to come on set and have to be kidnapped and getting ready to be, murdered type thing was very emotional scene. So it was a challenge to approach it in a delicate situation because of the state that she was in. It was really uncanny that it did elevate, I think, her performance, but then I don't want to exploit that too much because it was a very traumatic situation for real life that she had in the morning, and now she's playing a traumatic situation in the afternoon. So it was just a conversation with her to make sure that she was all set, that everything was safe here. This is a safe space to work in, and then letting her go with it, but knowing that she was going to be okay, and then whatever way we go with it, we're going to see how it ends up, and then tweak it if we have to from there. But I just felt like it was a delicate line to walk because of the emotional state she was in coming on set.
I do think when it comes to actors, even just screenwriting in general, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with a whole range of emotions, and anything could be a trigger for different emotional stress, and that's a little difficult to work with sometimes.
Yeah, and it almost was like made me think like you don't know what your actors coming in dealt with that day before they came on set. So it made me more aware that you don't know how they're going to be when they get on set, and it could be
right.
A bad day, a good day, an emotional day, So just being aware of that.
I mean, it's not like we have Stanley Kubrick again. Remember how he treated his actors on set?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm not doing that. No.
How do you keep your creativity flowing when juggling the demands of both writing and directing?
The big thing keeping juggling it is working a full-time job at the same time. So I got a full-time job. I'm going to school full-time. Well, not full-time, but part-time. And then I'm trying to do my writing in the evenings. So that's where I really see the juggling and sometimes slip doing that. When it comes to the writing and directing, I always think of myself as a writer first and then a director second because I love that. I can't get enough of sitting in front of my computer and creating. It's like going on an adventure every day, and it's just something I wish I'd done when I was younger. So, but the balance for me is regular job with the job that I wish I had as a writer.
I hate to admit, but I have a bit of an advantage in that regard. Being someone who's on disability with a mental condition, I have access to writing it as often as I want.
That's good. That's good that you're able to do that. Yeah.
What role does improvisation play in your work, both in the script writing phase and on set?
Definitely on the set. I mean, it's funny because, as a writer, I don't know how you feel as a writer, how
Hmm.
concrete your words are when you are like, they have to be. But as long as the actor is able to play in that space and they know where the character is going and the emotion
Hmm.
and all that and the arc of the scene and everything like that, I'm okay with the it not being perfectly words that I wrote. There may be, and even on set, I've run into it many times where they're trying to say it and it's just not working. We keep running, it just
Hmm.
doesn't flowing. So I'm okay changing those lines to make them work better. I've worked with other people, in the crew have gone, hey, why don't you just try this? And I'm like, all right, that will work. So yeah, I'm okay with improving. Some actors are really good at it.
Hmm.
Some actors are really good with just coming up with stuff off the top of their head and stuff like that. So I'm good with that on set for sure. The writing, I don't know. I'm still trying to learn as a writer that like when you write something the first time through, it's not doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I always want to make that perfect. So changing it later, rewriting is always the hard part for me.
From my time interviewing other people, I've become of the opinion that as a screenwriter, when it comes to being on set, the script can change at certain points, and eventually you gotta rewrite how things are going to go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the line is not working. The way the
Mhm.
crew member, the way the crew member, the actor is saying it. A lot of times, as an independent filmmaker, sometimes I can't get even on the set until the day of. So we're walking through it,
Mhm.
the day of walking through, blocking it out and all that stuff. And, it doesn't work where we're going and the lines are not flowing and the action is not flowing. So yeah, being flexible like that is very important, especially as an indie filmmaker and not being able to always get to the set a couple days before and block it all out, figure it all out. So yeah, definitely being flexible is important for that.
Do you ever have reading sessions where you just come into a room and
Yes, I've done that before too. Yeah, and table reads before in person and on Skype or Zoom or something like that, just to get the flow down and hear how the words sound,
Mhm.
you know, out of the character instead of me saying them, because I'll act them out here, just so they see if they sound good. But then when the person gets a hold of it, it's another story. So,
I rely on a program through Writer Duet that'll
all right.
actually read through each line from different voice points so I can
Oh,
see if it needs editing.
does that?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I've heard of write a duet a lot. I just didn't realize it did that. That's really cool.
Well, there's two different variations of it. One of them is a separate website that they allow you to use to do it, or you pay the premium in order to use it.
Okay, so you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I don't know about that.
How do you approach editing and refining your scripts to ensure they translate well onto the screen?
Yeah, well, obviously, writing is rewriting, so it's definitely, and for me, it was understanding that no matter who the writer is,
Hmm.
the first draft is always the crappy draft, no matter what it is, who's writing it. So,
Yeah.
uh, not being hard on yourself that is, and just getting it down on paper, and then realizing that usually the dialogue can be trying to refine the dialogue, make sure the scenes flow. Once that emotion has been in that scene, cutting out of that scene. I have people that I trust read that. Once I
Hmm.
feel comfortable to go out, I belong to a writing group that I have two that can read it. So once I feel comfortable showing it to somebody, then I will send it out and get that feedback. And then not necessarily if you're getting the feedback that something's wrong with it, obviously probably something's wrong with that spot, but not always. You don't always have to take their change what they think should be changed. You can come back and be like, okay, this isn't working. How do I change it that fits my story? The
Hmm.
way I'm writing it. So yeah, but it's a process, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I don't have access to a lot of resources that someone like you would have, but I have found that using AI to analyze the scene allows me to get a better view of what might need to be changed from my own perspective.
Yeah, that's another good way to use that too. Absolutely. Like you said, not to create anything because I don't want to do that, but
Right.
just to be like, hey, what do you think? I like that idea.
Can you discuss a particularly challenging aspect of directing that you've encountered and how to address it?
Particularly challenging. I did I have a horror comedy TV pilot that I did called Saving Little Z. It's about a preteen zombie girl. And that's another one that she doesn't feel like she fits in because she just wants to be like every other girl, but she's a zombie. It's a horror comedy. But she was young when I started, and just getting her to do some of the physical stuff and being, it's so funny because she's so sweet and so nice, but for her to act like a zombie, she had to be a zombie to like pretend to, bite people's necks. And it was difficult talking her through that. Since it was obviously, there was music playing over that, I was just off camera, just talking her through each step of it, and it's like, hey, it's okay. The actor's like, yeah, just bite me, it's like, that kind of thing. So it was challenging, but she did great. She did great. And she, loved playing that role. And, so that helped that she really wanted to be there and do it, but it was challenging. First time I worked with, a young lady child type thing, where you have to talk differently to them. It's not like you're talking to an adult. So you got to put it in, the way they understand it.
Right.
So that's what I found interesting and different and difficult at times.
You'll have to forgive me if these questions are director and screenwriter specific. I feel that when it comes to talking about acting, sometimes the perspective tends to change from actor to actor, and I want to get behind the camera instead of focusing on what's in front of it.
Right. Well, no, I like the the director, writer, because that's what I like to do the best. So.
Mm-hmm. What aspects of storytelling do you find most fulfilling as both a director and screenwriter?
Well, I think there's a couple aspects. I love coming up with stories. I'm super excited when I come up with a new idea, and I can't wait to get it down. I have all these screenplays, or at least ideas written down. I have it all on my phone too. We were talking earlier. You have a lot of ideas yourself, so it's that excitement of coming up with a new character, new world. I really enjoy that, and like I said, I think a lot of my screenplays have a message of that person that doesn't feel like they fit in, that feels different, and just trying to tell that story of like that's okay to be like unique and different, and you don't always have to fit in.
Yeah.
So those are the aspects that I like that.
It's always fun being a storyteller, no matter which medium it is.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like you were just saying with the acting, I'm like, I started as an actor, but I'm like, no. To me, it's the writing's where it's at. It's like that's where I'm coming up with the characters in the world, and then the actor comes in is one of the last people to be brought on to do it. So I just wanted to be at the base of it, the beginning of it, and when coming up with that idea.
It's one thing to act; it's a whole other to be able to create.
Yes, and that's what I like to do is create that stuff, create those worlds.
How do you balance staying true to your artistic vision while also being open to collaboration and feedback?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think that comes a lot along with the director part of it because I've had, the camera operator, the DP on set or another person on set comes up with, they have their idea. Like I've gotten together with my crews and like, this is what we're going to do. And then they've thought about it. And when we get on set, this is what they're thinking. And then this is what I'm thinking. So it's a fine line of, it's a collaborative effort, and I never want to squash anybody's opinion. So it's like, but we also we can't have everybody's opinion, or we'll be here all day trying to go through it all. So, and then not everybody knows exactly how the story is going to go, depending on that person. I mean, obviously the cinematographer would and stuff like that, but I welcome it because I always think in my mind, it's a collaborative effort, and I might be missing something that they see and it has happened where they're like, no, this, we should do this. And I have better scenes and things that have flowed better just because the first AD said, no, let's do this. Because the scene isn't working the way it's going, and we'll just have those sidebars where we talk, first AD would come over, the cinematographer, myself, if the actors are involved, we'll talk to them about what we think, how the scene should go. So I'm good with it. And I like to be collaborative if possible.
Now, when you say DP, is that director of photography?
Yep. Because I've had those issues where we've had conflicts with those.
Yeah. Just wanted everyone listening to know what DP stood for. You're good. Can you share a piece of advice you've received in your career that has stuck with you both as a director and screenwriter?
I think plan ahead and be flexible because there's nothing beats being prepared because there's every set that I've been on, there's always something that goes wrong. And the more you're prepared, the less wrong it will be, I guess you could say. So always be prepared. Pre-production is very important. And then be flexible. Be flexible. and be able to pivot, because like I said, not everything goes right. So you have to be able to pivot and go to plan B, plan C.
And of course, things are a little different when it comes to being an animation studio.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I'm sure you have different challenges
Mhm.
with that.
What do you think sets your approach to filmmaking apart from others in the industry?
You know, it was funny because like I said, I write horror comedy, and what I've always thought in my head that I want to do, and I don't know if I'm doing it yet, but my goal is to just, even though I think in the world now there is more elevated horror where it's not the old 80s slasher or, you know, mindless killer kind of thing. I always wanted to just make it more of a smart, more entertaining thing to watch instead of a mindless movie. Although I do like my old slashers from the 80s since I'm older, but I wanted that more, I hate to use the word elevated horror, but more elevated complex characters going through things,
Mhm.
and more normal, complex, complex characters that are going through things. I think that's the best way to describe it, how I've wanted to stand out different from other movies that are in that genre.
Could you imagine them making another Scream film based off of your concept of horror?
I don't know if that would work. I
You
don't
don't
know if
think
that,
so?
it might, you might give me an idea. Because I like Scream. I like Scream. I think it was good. I think the first one was, done well. But of course that's Wes Craven. So he was one
Oh,
of the,
he was. I mean, the concept of the movie was actually interesting, coming up with the different rules of a slasher flick.
yeah, I think that was a very entertaining part of it. I like that. It was like all those tropes, those horror tropes that, yeah, everybody falls into.
How do you handle pressure and stress during the production process wearing multiple hats?
That's a good question too. I mean, I like you like, and with indie film, it's multiple hats
Mhm.
that you are wearing for sure. One, being prepared, like I said. I always try to find a great crew that knows who their jobs or how many jobs they're going to be having that I can rely on. I tend to work with the same people because I like working with them and I know what they can do, and I think that really helps out handling those issues. If you can just if you like I said, it's a collaborative effort and you have to rely on those people. So I want to put those people in place that I know can do that to the best they can. We're still all learning. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the best way for me to handle those kind of situations.
Thinking back to the horror aspect of your writing and directing, I tried writing a horror short. I couldn't sleep one night, got up, wrote it, couldn't go back to sleep afterwards. I scared myself with it. I think it'd be interesting to get another horror writer's opinion on it.
Okay, yeah, that's one you sent me, right?
Yes.
Okay, yep, I'm gonna read that one. I'm gonna read that one. So I'm excited to read it. So, well, and if it scared you to go back, you can go back and sleep. That's good. I
I-
like that.
I'm open as it is. I just watching a woman laugh. I broke my roommate's leg.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, scary.
Can you discuss a project where your roles as director and screenwriter presented unique creative opportunities?
I think on my last project that I was working on was called Unperfect, the middle-aged man dealing with the mental illness. It was I was working with a new cinematographer who worked in a different way, and he worked fast, and we didn't have a lot of time, because with these shorts, we don't have a lot of money and we don't have a lot of time, and we're trying to fit a lot in.
Hmm.
So even though I was the writer of the script and the director, but we ended up cutting a lot down, even some that on during the shooting, and then definitely during the edit, we cut a lot of scenes out. And it just showed me even more that some of those scenes we didn't even need. They didn't even need it for the story. So those could have probably even been cut out in the screenplay. So
Hmm.
it just showed me like, okay, we ended up with even a more efficient, faster moving story because we got rid of some of those scenes that we didn't even really need to move the story forward. So it just showed me that like that I could have been even more efficient with my writing. Because sometimes when you write and you're like, oh, I like this scene, I'm going to keep it in there. So
I've actually had the opposite where people are like, okay, I need more explanation to this. Can you write an additional scene?
yes, and I've had that too. I've had people that I've sent scripts to, and they're like, "Well, you need more. I need to know more, especially in the world building. If I've done a world building, they're like, "Well, we need to know more of the world, or we need more of the scene." I've had it both ways. This just happened to be this way. with this film that it worked out with cutting like 2 or 3 scenes out.
What lessons have you learned from your experiences in both directing and screenwriting that have shaped your career?
One for sure is taking criticism, for sure, because that was when I had somebody read a script, or even if I sent it somewhere to get read, that punch in the gut when you got it back and they just tore it apart, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, like I suck so bad. But they don't know you, you don't know them. They're sometimes, or they're your friends, but they're doing something good for you, because if they just said it was great, then they're not helping you at all. So
right.
it was tough to take in the beginning, but now I know it's what I need, and it's what the script needs and the story needs. If it's going to be a successful script and story, it needs that critique. So just being able to take that criticism and turn it into something positive and fix that problem with the script.
It's not much different writing novels than writing screenplays. The only difference is you're going into the backgrounds of the characters that people wouldn't know on film.
Right, right. So you get to elaborate a little more on all that, more colorful. Yeah.
Whereas on film, you've got to try and have an actor portray their line of thinking without even them speaking.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, because it's really just kind of a blueprint for a film. It's not something like a novel where you're reading it. That's not the finished product. The
Right,
novel's the finished product. The screenplay is not the finished product.
right. How do you stay inspired and motivated to continue pushing boundaries in your work?
I think a couple things. I belong to a filmmaking group here in Orlando, and they do contests and stuff. And the group has grown pretty big, but it's very supportive. So having that support group is very important. It's very important to have that support, because obviously we're doing a creative field,
Mhm.
that we do, and you're pouring yourself out. So it's something that you're putting yourself out there. So it's a very vulnerable spot to be put in, as you know. So you need that support to keep going. And then I've stopped, not with the writing, but other creative avenues. And I was miserable. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Why don't I feel good? Why don't I feel happy? And then it was because I was missing the creative side of my life. So
Mhm.
I will never stop being creative, because I know if I don't have that, then I'm not as happy as when I have it. No matter where I'm at in it, whether, I'm successful at it or I just stay just doing my own thing.
See, I wish we had some kind of support organization up here in West Virginia. I've not been able to locate any, and especially since with my trying to run an animation studio, I'm the only one in the area.
Really, all in that whole area.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I plan on revolutionizing this area with with a full-blown animation studio once I can actually get financial backing.
Right. And see, that might be the good thing, is like there's nobody there, so you're it.
Yeah.
So it might work in your favor to do that.
Looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the future of your career in both directing and screenwriting?
I would love to, if I could make a living as a screenwriter, that
Mhm.
would be, that's definitely, right now it's just, making my films and just getting my work out there so people can see
Yeah.
what I do. Um, and then hopefully down the road, able to sell a script or two here would be great. Or have the money, like you said, because you want the money for your animation studio. If I can get enough, because crowdfunding is tough. I've tried to crowdfund
Yeah.
it, and that is,
I've not been able to get anything through
yeah.
crowdfunding. When
So
it comes to,
yeah, I've been unsuccessful too. So yeah, even if I could get enough money to make my own films, that
Mhm,
would be great. Because to stay out of that Hollywood studio system and do my own stuff would be
mhm.
even cooler, I think, because I can do what I want, kind of thing. So yeah,
But of but of course, having connections is another good thing to have, even as an indie developer. Because say you want to get on places like Netflix or something, you have to have someone that can speak with those studios.
yes, yes, and having those connections is very important, and it's as you know, it's not an easy thing to keep as to network. It's not an
Mhm.
easy thing to do, and especially you living here. I live here, and we're not in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We're not meeting those people. So it's a little harder, I feel like, on social media and lines, but it can be done. It just takes a little more effort, but it's a little longer. But yeah, definitely important to make those connections. 100%.
And see, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money, if at all, off of my scripts. I would love to be able to just take at least the first few projects I have and just gain recognition for them
Right.
and get my name out there.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's not. Yeah, I'm great. It's not necessarily the money. It's the getting that your recognition, and I agree.
Here's the funny thing. My comedy parody satire movie takes place in Florida.
Oh, does it really?
Yes.
That'd be a good place for that, right? Florida's a little weird sometimes, so
Yeah, well,
yeah.
my father's like, why not set it in California? Everyone there is entitled. And it's like, yeah, but if you've seen all the people coming out of Florida.
Florida, yeah, you would understand. Yeah, you would understand.
And with that, we've reached the end of today's enlightened conversation. A heartfelt thank you to Chris Ballinger for gracing us with his presence and sharing his invaluable insights. Your contributions have truly enriched our discussion.
Thank you for having me. This was great. A lot of great questions. A lot of great. I like them.
If you're passionate about the creative arts or aspire to make your mark in the entertainment industry, be sure to tune in for our monthly interviews with industry professionals. Each episode promises to enlighten and inspire, offering a window into the extraordinary journeys of our guests. Until our next encounter, remember to keep your eyes and ears open for more captivating conversations. Thank you for being a part of LPA Presents.